Hey everyone, and welcome back to another 3D tips. So today I want to talk about rigging this small and cute dragon so he can do some crazy stuff. Rigging a quadruped is similar to rigging a biped character, so I just want to go through the workflow of how to do so, and let's get to it. So I'm going to load up my advanced skeleton here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on model clean. So when you select your model here, you can see that I've named in the outliner all the geometry I have. So I have the geometry here on the dragon body, and I have right eye or left eye here. And in order to rig this properly, what we want to do is we want to select whatever geometry we might have in the scene and then click model clean. So what's going to happen here is you're going to get another dialog box where it asks you to clean up the model. So it's going to create a top level group called geo when we hit create. And what you can see in the outliner, what just happened is that we have a new group now called geo, and under that group we have all the geometry that we've named um, before. So the other thing that we need to check is that in your attribute editor here, that everything is set to 0, and that your model is sitting at the origin here in terms of the pivot point. If this is not the case, then you can always go under edit and say delete all by type history, because you don't want to have any modeling history or whatever you were doing on your model before. And the other thing is to go under modify and click freeze transformations, because when you do that, if you had your character with some weird numbers here going on in your channel box at that time, what's going to happen is that it's going to zero them all out. And that way you have everything zeroed out and ready to go, right? Like this. Okay, so let's get going, shall we? The next step is to hit clean. So with my top group geo selected, I'm just gonna say clean. And what happens here is that the advanced skeleton puts Maya in a position where you have all 4 views here, orthogonal views: the top, side, bottom, and front, and the perspective one. It removes the textures so you can clearly see where you need to place the joints and so on. Now, once that is done, you can also check the symmetry for your model, but I know it's symmetrical, so it's fine. And then what it's going to ask me is to create a new scene. You can create a new scene and then reference the model in. Or if you don't want, what you can do is you can select whatever you have here, create a layer here, and you can call this ref for reference. And then you can say add selected objects to the layer. What's going to happen there is that I can then by hand decide to template the character here by clicking on and having the T showing. That way you know that your model is templated. You don't inadvertently select any of the geometries that you don't need to select now, because what you want to do is just put your joints in the correct place. So that's what essentially the create new scene and reference would do. I'm not going to do it here in my scene, but you're more than welcome to do it, because that would be the process, um, the correct process. But for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm just going to go forward and rig it. So I'm going to open up the fit skeleton here, and under biped, you see under the fit skeleton I have biped, and I have dinosaur, and I have dragon, and I have gorilla, and so on. And below I have some additional limbs and whatnot. So for this case, I'm just gonna go with something that's more like just gonna go for something that's more like the cat. I'm gonna go more for the cat, because if I go with the dragon, you have a dragon option here on the dinosaur. um, it's not going to look good. It's going to be very complicated and it's not going to fit what I need here. For me, it's way simpler to have the tail of the cat, the four legs, and the head and whatnot, and just add a couple of joints here rather than selecting the dragon, clicking on import. I mean, you can see what happens. What I get is this, right? I mean, that's kind of like, too many joints. But actually, yeah, maybe I can try to rig it with this. Okay, let's give it a go. I'm gonna select the main selection here, click on scale, and then scale all of that down. Okay, it's not moving. Okay, for whatever reason, edit and go under fit mode. Fit mode. It's not reacting. That's not cool. Okay, so under the fit mode here, I'm not going to select the dragon. I'm going to select the cat. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click import for the cat, because for me, it's way more simpler to have a simplified here skeleton that I need to fit rather than having a very complicated, you know, setup of a dragon with wings and whatnot, and it has too many joints that I don't need. So I'm just gonna go, ahead with the cat skeleton as a basis. So I'm gonna untemplate my model, and under the geo, I'm gonna select the geo. I'm gonna rotate my model because it's not in the correct position by 90 degrees on the y-axis. And I'm gonna template the model again. And then what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna scale roughly into position the size that I would want. I guess this would be it. And then from here, I'm gonna enter into the fit mode by opening up the fit option and then clicking here on fit mode. And what this gives me is the possibility of actually fitting all the joints where I want them to be. So I'm going to start first with this one here. I'm going to roughly fit it somewhere where the hip would be. And then I'm going to go one by one and then adjust each of the remainder skeletons here. Okay. And then I'm going to bring everything into position pretty much where I want it. I'm checking in perspective, and notice I'm just moving along the axis. I'm not just freely selecting the joint and moving it around. I'm only moving it as per the axis, and that means grabbing the handle and moving just the handle, not moving it freely. Okay, so that should be fine. I'm just going to move into position this one, the back leg, hip back joint. Okay, I'm going to slightly offset this. Like so. I'm constantly shifting around to see what's going on in 3D so that I can clearly see where I'm positioning these joints. I'm just going to roughly position the whole skeleton first to see if it fits well overall. Maybe this should have been a bit lower. Yeah, I'm going to put it a bit lower. And I'm going to see how many of those I need. So the ones that I don't need, I'm just going to select and delete, keeping just the ones that I need. No extra joints for no reason, just whatever is needed. So the leg front here, I'm just gonna bring this down a little bit here, like so. Then bring this back a little bit here, and then move this one up. And it's always pushing and pulling, you know, with this method. Can't really get it right quickly. Need to spend some time orbiting, checking that everything is in the correct position, that you don't have too many joints in weird places. Okay, and this is the top head joint. Now the name of the game is going down through the chain, adjusting it where it's supposed to be, and then coming back and doing some more adjustments. I'm not, as you can see, using any scale or rotation. I'm just using the translate. And in this specific case, what happens is I have two joints that are too many, or too many joints here on this position, because you see I want to bring the this is the jaw control, and I need my dragon later on to open his mouth. So I just want to make sure that I have the jaw in the correct position, and here it's not. So if you have this kind of a scenario, you can go under edit and say unparent, and then you're gonna unparent this higher hierarchy, and I'm gonna select one join higher and just click unparent again. I'm going to delete this joint, and I'm gonna select this joint and the one that's following in the chain and say edit parent. And then what happens, well, you see this is not the correct way of doing it, because your joint is pointing down, whereas it's supposed to be pointing up. So let's do it again. The one that's up needs to be selected first, and then the one that's below in the chain needs to be selected second. And you go under edit and you say parent, and notice the difference. Now the joint is pointing up, and that's exactly what I want. So let's get cracking. All right, so I'm gonna move this here a bit lower, like this, and then I'm going to try to move this joint in position. So the joint for the eyes are going to go a bit higher, and this joint is going to go here. So I'm going to move this one like so here, and for this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate. So I'm going to employ the rotation, rotate it in the correct order, pull it out because it's supposed to be somewhere here. and that way I have the correct rotation and position for where it's supposed to be, because if it's not in the correct position, the skinning is going to be off later on, and we don't want that. Let's check this shoulder here. All right, move this into position here like this. Okay, this should be good. When this opens, it should be fine. And now let's check the eye. So this is the eye end, and this is the eye. So what needs to happen is that I need to put the eye really in the center here of the eyeball. And I just can't, like have this anywhere else except where it's supposed to be, because otherwise when I rotate my eye, it's not going to rotate the way it's supposed to rotate. So I need to find out where the center of this geometry is, and I can only do that by enabling the local rotation axis on the eyeball itself. So I'm going to untemplate this and show you just that. I'm going to select the eyeball, and under display here, I'm going to go under transform display and enable local rotation axis. And what happens now is that I'm going to go under shading and engage X-ray so that we can see what's going on. So we can see where the local rotation axis for this geometry is, and you can see it's not where it's supposed to be. It's down there. Just need to make sure that it's in the center here. So I'm going to go under modify and say center pivot. And what happens that it brings the pivot of this specific geometry where it's supposed to be, okay, here in the center. And then when I unclick the model, you can see that in the center I still have the coordinate system x, y, and z here, and it stays here, because if you didn't engage local rotation axis, as soon as you unselect your model, your object geometry, you're gonna lose the location of the pivot point, and you're unable to snap whatever you want to snap in the center. So I'm just gonna select the geometry here, the joint, sorry, and I'm gonna say click C on my keyboard, and then sorry, I'm gonna click C on the keyboard. Just gonna make sure that it snaps right where it's supposed to, and that's here in the center of the local rotation axis. Well, as you can see, it didn't snap where it's supposed to, so let's do this again. Still not snapping where I wanted to snap. Let's go in and try to do it again. No, I'm gonna go under show and remove polygons. So just keep the joints, and I'm gonna try again. I'm gonna move middle mouse button, hold V. So I'm gonna hold V on the keyboard, and then with the middle mouse button, I'm gonna snap it into position where the local rotation axis is. And that's it. I'm just gonna go under show polygons, bring back the polygons, and under shading X-ray, I can remove the X-ray. So that way I know, can check if everything is fine. I'm gonna bring back X-ray one more time. And now what we can do is we can arrange some of the joints that are still not in the correct place. Like for example, this one. I'm gonna bring the foot back here. And I'm constantly moving around to check if everything is where it's supposed to be. Kind of like if you imagine that this dragon, kind of like if you imagine that this dragon would have a skeleton, you want to place those joints there. Okay, so now I want to work on the toes. So I have one that is too much here. Just gonna remove this one here in the center. No, that's not the one I want. I want to remove this one. Just gonna select and click delete. I'm just gonna rearrange accordingly all the other ones, because that's the scenario that I have. I have 3 fingers, no big toe. So I'm just gonna delete the big toe and I'm gonna delete the pinky toe. Check this out. I have the heel. That's the heel would be here. I'm gonna move this into the correct position. Heel would be here, and then I'm gonna move this heel down. The heel itself, I don't know, I think this one is too much actually, so I'm gonna delete this one and I'm gonna bring the heel back here, and I'm gonna use the remainder of the joints here to put them into position. So I'm gonna space them out a bit more. Forgot to template my model. I inadvertently selected it. So I'm gonna space them out a bit like this. So I have a bit more space and rotation later on. Put this one in position. And then I'm gonna put the rest toe and back. I don't need this one. I'm just gonna put this one here, and then this one a bit more forward, this one, and then this one like this. Just gonna bring them up a little bit and then down slightly. I think that's gonna help later on with the animation. Bring this one up and then up slightly. Yep. And then I'm gonna bring this one up and then bring this down slightly, and to space them out a little bit more. So it gives me a greater rotation later on. Just need to make sure that it's in the center of the geometry. Like so. Just gonna bring these ones a bit higher to match the other joints in the chain. Yeah. And I think I'm pretty happy with where this is going, like this. For the back, let's check the front one. So I'm gonna space them out a bit like this, so I get access to this. Just gonna delete this one, delete this one, delete this one. Those front, I'm gonna delete the big toe, the pinky toe. I don't need those. I need the heel. I'm gonna put the heel here, like so. I have one more joint that is too much. Don't need it here. And then like I did for the back foot, I'm just gonna lift it up and then space it out some more. And then put them into position, so they're where they're supposed to be. inside of the geometry. Same thing for this one. Okay. And the last one. Like this. Bring the heel back a little bit. So it should be pretty much in a location where I'm happy with all of this. I'm just gonna move the head joint a bit in the back. So I'm pretty happy with this. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna increment and save. And I'm going to go and say update now to manually update all the rotation on the joints and exit fit mode. So now once I'm out of fit mode, I'm ready to click on build, and I'm going to build the advanced skeleton. So now what it's doing, it's building all the other side. It's mirroring all the joints and creating all the control curves that are needed and attaching them to the respective joints. And this is what we get. So we get all the control curves that are needed. Notice that the joints here are in the center of the eye. On the other side as well, because the model is fully symmetrical. Okay, and once I've done that, I'm gonna go under option deform 2 and create a cage. So it's gonna create a skin cage with all the skinning applied to it. And also this can be very useful when you want to animate later on and just, not have your high poly model directly in the scene, but just use the, the low poly cage. But for now, okay, I'm just going to say copy weights. And no, actually I need to untemplate my model here and just say copy weights. What happens now is if I start moving the controls, you can see that I'm going to remove the x-ray here. You can see that it's moving. Now what's happening is that we are seeing the cage underneath. So I'm going to remove the skin curves and the skin cage from the layer so we don't see them, and you can see it's already working pretty well. Obviously, as always, there is some skinning issues that need to be checked, but overall this is already moving nice and fine from what I can see. So I'm going to bring back all of these controls back to 0, and let's check what's next. Okay, so now that the wings are missing, what needs to happen is I need to go and say toggle fit advanced skeleton. Okay, I'm gonna delete whatever existed before, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say click on the joint tool, and I'm gonna jump quickly into the side view and draw my joints here that I want. I'm happy with those. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to check in the perspective view. By clicking spacebar, you can jump from window to window. And once I'm in the perspective view, what's going to happen is I'm going to click on fit mode to make sure I don't mess up the orientation of the joints. And I'm just going to bring them into the correct position. So what's going to happen is I'm going to move them into their respective correct positions so that they're exactly in the middle of the wing, because that's what I'm interested in. Okay. Okay, there we go. there we go. All right. And now I'm gonna attach the joints. So I'm gonna exit the joint tool. I'm gonna, sorry, exit the fit mode, update now, and exit the fit mode. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna exit the joint tool and I'm gonna select this joint and I'm gonna attach that to the chest joint by hitting P on the keyboard, and that way they're parented. So now it should be moving with the entire skeleton. Okay, now is a good time to save. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Build Advanced Skeleton. And now it's rebuilding all the control curves. And notice what happened is that it mirrored the joints that we created now. They got mirrored on the other side as well. So, and we got some control curves to control those joints. We can adjust them later on in terms of size and the look of those. What happens now is the model is not connected to the skin. So what we're going to do is we're going to rebuild the cage. So we're rebuilding the cage, and we're going to copy the weights again onto our model. All right, once this is done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch off the skin cage and remove my model from the reference mode, select the model, and then I'm going to say copy weights. To make sure that all of that works, I'm going to select this control curve, and then I can see it moves correctly. Now I'm going to zero out everything, and this concludes the fast rigging of this cute dragon. In the next lesson, I just want to talk about fixing the issues like the weights and some of the parts that are not moving correctly, and to show you guys how that works, because some of the weights are going to move properly, but some are not. So we just need to make sure that we adjust all of that manually. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you liked all the cool tips you received, and smash the like button. Don't forget to follow our channel. It will help us a lot, and I'll see you soon.